Today, I'm giving you what I believe to be the solution to this painting. Only 3 casques have been found from Byron Priess's The Secret Treasure Hunt, and if I'm right about this, somebody may be finding the 4th. You see, there's a simple trick we need to use in order to understand what Byron was saying in each of these poems. Also, if you're new to The Secret Treasure Hunt, then be sure to check out this video here at the end of this one. It's his entire story and an explanation as to what this treasure hunt is. I also give an in-depth explanation as to what I think the secret is to understanding the secret. So here's the way all armchair treasure hunts work. You want your treasure hunt to be found eventually, right? Well, in order to do that, you have to lead people to spot A and then to point B. And that's literally what Byron does. He explicitly tells you, go to this starting point, and from here, go to this area, and then you dig right there. If you haven't picked up his book, then I definitely recommend doing so. I'll leave a link down in the comments and in the description. It is an affiliate link. I get a little kickback if you purchase through it. The poem is step-by-step directions to the treasure cask, and the painting is the description of what the area looks like. So here's how I could explain it to you without all the mystery. Start on 5th Avenue at the corner of Starbucks. Go down 3 blocks and look at the green building on your right. Go in the opposite direction of that and look in the trash, and you'll find a bag filled to the brim with trash. More or less, that's how it all works. So let's see what this poem says. We're not going to look at the painting just yet, because we need directions and an understanding first. And then once we have that, we'll figure out where we're supposed to be. Also, I'm just using the public consensus of what poem goes with this particular painting. At Stonewall's door, the air smells sweet. There's a lot of good info on that. We know that there is a door, and it's not just any door, but it actually has belonging to something, or more likely to someone. Not far away, high posts are 3. So this is fairly straightforward. Once you find Stonewall's door, there'll be 3 posts nearby. Or the alternate possibility is that there's 3 things posted up nearby. Education and justice for all to see. This is a very interesting line because unlike the rest of the words in this poem, justice is capitalized, which means it's important. And the line for all to see, well, that means that it's not hidden and it's not obscured. It's out in the open for everyone to see it. Sounds from the sky near Ace is high. I can kind of see this being something like speakers that are connected to a PA system that are just hooked up to the top of something. Or perhaps it could be a military base or an airport that actually takes off in a certain direction. Running north, but first across in the jewel's direction, is an object of Twain's attention. So real quick, all my videos are really scripted. I'm going off the script when I'm trying to explain this because it's kind of difficult to do it just by reading something. Running north but first across in the jewel's direction is an object of Twain's attention. So there's got to be something that's running north and south but first across in the jewel's direction. So like when you kind of visualize that, something is running north and south and then you're going across in the jewel's direction. So that's what I'm getting kind of visually as I imagine what I'm trying to figure out right here. Once you go across in the jewel's direction, there'll be an object of Twain's attention. So it's literally giving you some explanation as to where to go. It's giving you a general idea of where you want to be. And then once you have that general idea, you'll use that to figure out where you're supposed to go in that area. And then the last few lines, giant pole, giant step to the place the casque is kept. Right there, it's pretty nice because it's giving us some sort of a visual cue as to what we're supposed to look for. So we've got this thing that's running north, we're going across from it in the jewel's direction, and once we get there we'll see something of Twain's attention, and once we have that object of Twain's attention we'll see a giant pole, we'll have to take a giant step, and then that's where the casque is kept. So yeah, I've already kind of figured out a place as to where this casque is, but in order to give you an idea of what I was doing as I tried to solve this, I read the poem first and then I looked at the painting. Now that doesn't mean that I'm right, but I feel in doing that, it allows your imagination to give you directions so that way whenever you pair the painting with your location, it really just helps you figure out where you're supposed to go. So now that we have a rough idea of where we're supposed to go, or how we're supposed to get there at least, let's take a look at the painting. But before we can pair those clues with the location, we need to read the Litany of Jewels. Those 2 pages are absolutely imperative if you want to find out where these casques are. You see, These 2 pages are absolutely vital in finding the casques, because they give you loose locations based on where this group of people immigrated from, which in this case is China, specifically. But I imagine it's primarily Asian for the most part, and we can tell because of the line from far Cathay, the dragon's pearl, chaste, perfect as the silver moon, and the majority of Chinese immigrants settled in greater New York City, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. So I personally am ruling out New York, just because I believe a different casque is hidden there, and I don't think Byron would hide 2 casques in the same state like that. And I looked over Los Angeles briefly, and it just didn't suit the needs of the hunt, at least from my perspective. So that leaves us with San Francisco, and right off the bat, we're met with some really interesting findings. But first, I want to address the elephant in the room. So while solving this puzzle, I did run into other solves on the internet. However, my final location is actually based on all of my own personal research, and while I may have been helped here and there by certain clues, overall this final solve is completely me. Now, if you end up actually having the same exact solve as me, then let me know down in the comments, because I think that's wild. That could actually really point towards a possibility that me and whoever else thought of this solve is right. Oh, and lastly, don't do anything you're not supposed to do. You're responsible for your own actions, not me. So with all that out the way, let's get started connecting the painting to the correct park, the Golden Gate Park. The Golden Gate Park fits so many of the needs for this treasure hunt. It's actually the exact same shape as the design on the woman's gown. And similar to the painting, there is a road that crosses in the middle. And just like the road, the woman's arms are crossed as well. And if we look into this a little bit more, the squares that go up and down this design, I believe represent the countless blocks of the city that outline the park. Now, I doubt that they're the exact number, but I didn't have the patience to go counting them. So aside from the woman's dress, we also see a single rose here on the side, which is important as well. Then we also see the waterfalls and the prison-like window at the very top of the entire thing. Now, I did notice that the letters on her dress are reversed, hinting at the possibility that once you come to your final solve, perhaps you need to reverse the image or reverse the map so that way you can find the actual location to the treasure casque. I don't think that to be the case, but it's an interesting idea. So what is it that convinces me that we're in the right place here? Well, at Stonewall's door, the air smells sweet seems to have an online presence, hinting that it is the doors on the statue of Shakespeare at the Shakespeare Garden, which I do actually kind of agree with, because when we look at the left and the right side, we see 3 things are posted up nearby. So right off the bat, at Stonewall's door, the air smells sweet. Not far away, high posts are 3. All of the requirements to this are met right here at this location. And I think it's even hinting at this idea when we look at the shape of the painting as well. It's similar to the little housing that Shakespeare's in. So when I first read this, education and justice for all to see, I imagined that there was going to be some sort of a college and a courthouse nearby. But when we look in the area, there's actually the De Young Museum, along with the National AIDS Memorial, and even a World War I memorial as well. I didn't do too much research as to which one of these buildings were and were not there when Byron hid the casques, but I'm just going with what I believe to be right. Then we have Sounds from the Sky near Aces High. And this I actually had to look on Google Maps instead of Google Earth to find. There's actually an amphitheater nearby. You see, Byron is putting all of this in place just so that way we know we're in the right location. Otherwise, these clues could be interpreted to send you anywhere. So now we can rest assured that we are in the right location, and we can use the other clues in the poem to figure out where we're supposed to go from here. So running north but first across in the jewel's direction is an object of Twain's attention. This is where I started to get really excited. There is in fact a road that runs north and then across. So remember what I said, when I was solving this, I just read the poem at first, and then I looked at the clues inside the painting, so I had no idea that this was going to be here. I really think it's important that you use your imagination to come up with directions, so that way when you get to the location, it's just that much easier to figure out where you're supposed to go. So we follow this road going north, and then across in the jewel's direction. Well, if we zoom in here where the road runs perpendicular to its original path, we in fact see a cross, a literal cross that is facing east. So this for me was just literally saying a cross in the jewel's direction. You see, the cross is facing the direction that the casque is supposed to be in. So if we follow this direction, we're given 3 different things. First, the Doughboy Meadow, then the 14th Avenue Meadow, and lastly, a rose garden. This is where I had to do even more research, and hopefully you'll learn to love reading because of this. I mean, this is really the only kind of literature that I can stand to keep reading and just never get tired of. History. So we've gone across in the jewel's direction, and now we're looking for an object of Twain's attention. But what is that? Well, you see, in 1857, Mark Twain was in his early 20s, and he had just gotten a job as an apprentice steamboat pilot. It was actually called the Pennsylvania, and it was on the Mississippi River. And I know what you're thinking, But Josh, why does this matter if we're in California? Well, it wouldn't matter if it wasn't for his brother, Henry. You see, after Mark Twain had become an apprentice, he had also gotten his little brother a job. They were both working on steamboats, they were getting paid, and everything just seemed to be working out great. But then, Mark had a dream. And what happened in this dream, he's quoted as saying, Henry was a corpse, laid out in a metal casket, dressed in one of his older brother's suits, with a huge bouquet of white roses on his chest and a single red rose at the center. A single red rose. Well, sadly enough, Mark Twain's brother did die, and at the funeral, he saw his younger brother in one of his own suits, in a casket, as an elderly woman walked up. She had a bouquet of roses, and all of them are white, except for one. That one rose was red. So what is it that I believe to be the object of Twain's attention? A rose. So this in fact does lead us to the rose garden. So now what are we left with? Giant pole, giant step to the place where the casque is kept. So this is where I think Byron was just being very literal. So we need to find a giant pole, and from there we'll take a giant step, and then we'll be where the casque is, and we just need to dig, and that's it. Well, luckily for us, there is in fact a giant pole right next to the rose garden. And it's this pole specifically that I believe to be the one Byron is telling us about. And if I were there, I'd be able to give you more information, because there's also another possible solve. Either the giant step is kind of like saying, hey, let's step over here, and you go to the northernmost part of the park from where you're at. Or you're taking the measurement of that giant pole and digging the distance away from that. So for example, if the pole is 15 feet high, you're going to count 15 feet away from it, and then that's where you're going to start to dig. Either way, that's what I believe to be the solve for this specific poem and painting. However, that doesn't mean that I'm right. But if you do go out there and you manage to find that casque, just send me an email. I don't want anything from you. I just want to talk to you about how you actually got out there and managed to find this thing. You see, I love all things adventure, and I'm assuming that you do too. And if you do, then this is a video that YouTube says you're gonna love. Or catch up on The Secret, a treasure hunt, and what it's all about. Either way, I'll see you there.